all, I think your analysis was very straight-lined. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD. I got nothing.
Calm down. I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lord Taylor. That's good.
I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but an erratic detective, is Mickey Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No. Girl, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Akash Persaud. Whether you're in London, Paris, Toronto, Trinidad, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Very, very happy Arrival Day to you. This is Arrival Day. The official name is Arrival Day, but it's commonly referred to as Indian Arrival Day. We feature a personality behind the promulgation of Indian Arrival Day. In fact, he was one of the founders of an organization that is still influential, still active, the Indian Arrival Committee, and he will tell you there's a slight change in that name. Our guest this evening to celebrate Arrival Day with us is theater producer, theater actor, and cultural icon, Neaz Subhan. Before we introduce Neaz, we'd like to say to our viewers, Mr. Subhan is also an ERC, Ethnic Relation Commissioner, and he's also the CEO of NCN. We will not be asking him any questions on NCN or the Ethnic Relations Commission. He is here in his capacity of someone who has immense contribution to Indian culture and who has formed one of the person that birthed the Indian Arrival Committee. So we will concentrate on that, and we will highlight his cultural contribution to Guyana, for which he won an outstanding award. So it's a cultural night with one of the cultural icons of Guyana, Neaz Subhan. Neaz, thanks a lot for being here. Akash Persaud.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much, Freddie and Akash.
Neaz, one of the things that moved people who read it, and I don't think I could have you in the studio without talking about it, because when people are near to death and they write about it, it always, enthralls the mind. Let me hear about this man's experience. You made it public about your near death with COVID, and we saw a program in which you were interviewed, but that we cannot broadcast that, though we would like to. We have clips with you coming up, but there's music in the background of that interview, and of course copyright, but I would have liked our viewers to see that. But the man is here himself to tell us about near death. Is the right word? Near death?
Wow.
I am glad you're still with us.
Yeah.
I followed your career. You are a good actor, I wish you could sing a song on Indian, just a few words. Oh, Mary.
That's Freddie's favorite song,
Rajasthana movie.
I wish you could. I'm going to force you to sing a song. Neaz, you're feeling all right now? You're better? You're back in the world with the people of the world?
I am much better, Freddie and Akash. I'm
Much better? You're not back to your pristine self?
I'm not 100%. There were challenges. Well, there are challenges. There were some consequences as a result of being 50 days in the COVID ICU. Wow. I think 50 days I spent in the ICU. I think I may have been the person who spent the longest in the ICU. I think there was a young girl who spent about 80 days in isolation.
But she survived.
Right, she survived, but she was not in the ICU. It was a near-death experience. It wasn't to the point now, even in my life, when I hear the sound or sounds that are very similar to a trolley moving, I get very traumatized with that, because 12 persons died around me. And you see that, it wasn't easy. I mean, in those days, it was new. Our country was learning from it. The doctors and nurses were very professional. They did their best, and I've thanked them so many times. And for me, I'm happy that I'm here. And in that room, very small room, there was a bird used to come every day and outside of the window. But it was sealed also from the inside. It was a double pane. So you had the original window, and then they sealed it from the inside with another pane of glass. And that bird was there on the outside. And all I wanted to be was like that bird, just to be on the outside.
Free.
And then you realize that in life, nothing else really matters.
Exactly.
Because I couldn't get fresh air to breathe. I couldn't breathe fresh air for so many days. And you realize so many things in life, what matters, what doesn't matter. And you get a whole new renewing of your thinking and everything else. So it was a very telling experience, but I'm happy where I am today.
But Neaz, of the 8 billion people in this world, very few could explain their experience and the psychic occurrences of being near death. Very few people have that experience. And I think for Guyana, you're probably one of the few who has recorded that. You've written about that, and I'm glad we're doing this program. Do you have access to words to describe when a month passed, a month and a half?
Yeah, I'll tell you. It depends on how you, for the purpose of discussion, how you describe near death, whether it was physical, whether it was mental, right? In my case, while I may not have been as bad physically as some people who had to be induced into comas and all of that, right? But I was sick. I had heart issues and all of that. But mentally, it started taking a toll. And I knew, to use a Guyanese word, I may trip at some point. And I tried my utmost to ensure that I could stay as focused as I could, despite what was happening around me. And one day I couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't take it. And I called the doctor and I said, look, I think I'm brave enough to tell you that my mental capacity is slipping, and I will slip. And I'm more scared of that than, because I'm already in the hospital, I'm physically sick.
Yeah.
But now if the mental part were to trip, then what will happen to me? And they were able to use the resources that they had.
Did they bring in a counselor?
They had counselors, but they couldn't come into the ward itself. But they were able to talk to me on the phone.
No one could have come
in. They could have talked to me on the phone and all of that. But the point I'm making is that I think I'm happy, and I had that opportunity to be able to be sane in the context of being very conscious of my state, and to be able to point that out. If I didn't do that, I don't know what would have happened.
Before Akash come in, where did you pick up COVID-19 from?
I have no idea, Freddie. I have no idea. The elections were on. We all know what was happening before March 15th. March 13th, I think, was the first declaration, if my memory serves me right. So I was involved in all of that as an observer.
You were in and out of Hartfield Street, Ashwin.
Different places and all of that.
Thousands and thousands of people.
Right.
They had to be picked up from there.
So I would want to assume somewhere along that. But I was very shocked when I was tested positive. Really, really shocked. And I could never forget that night. Time has passed. We can talk about it. But that night when they came, it was one vehicle that was armed with policemen, with heavily armed policemen, big guns. There was an ambulance, and there was an escort car. And they're coming for one guy.
Is a criminal they're picking up?
I at that time you don't even want to think about it, you know. But I was very intimidated.
That was how you were transported.
Yes. They were nice people, I must tell you that. But the whole psyche of seeing these 3 vehicles in front of your yard, coming for a patient to take to the isolation, it was very intimidating. I wasn't harmed. Let me make that very clear. But it was very intimidating.
Akash, before you come in, Neaz, happy arrival day.
Thank you, my brother.
Keep the arrivalness of culture in you and in Guyana, Akash.
When I got this, when I was contacted to act my first movie, it was Mahadev Shivraj who spoke to me, and he said, I have this movie coming called Brown Sugar Too Bitter for Me, and I'm filming this movie at certain times, and this is I have a spot here, a kin cutting in Body Azad. I think you can fill this role well. And myself and Mrs. Subhan is in that movie, but we never met on set. And that's how movies are, So many times we had to film, but he was never on set because we never clashed on set. But let me say it's a pleasure to have you here. And I want to talk to you about the cultural aspects of the what our foreparents brought here. There's a monument at Palmyra that depicts certain things. Neaz, we have already lost Bhojpuri. Basic, I don't even know if a few words exist only. What can we do to preserve a number of the cultures that came there? And let me first start with music, the traditional Indian music that the tan singing and all of these things. How can we preserve this, whatever is left?
You see, we are living in an evolving world. Things will evolve. And this is something that we can't change. Changes are inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? There are far more influences now on all cultures. And personally, and I've said it publicly, that we need to adapt. I believe we need to adapt and to be able to bring on board and see how we can use the technology to our advantage. What evolves also would be people's preferences, right? Depending on what is available to them, right? So whatever they're given from the producers, they have a choice of whether I want to listen to this type of music or not. Even the way we communicate now would have changed.
Absolutely.
Vastly. So culture for me, while culture has been bombarded by these influences, but it's how we deal with those challenges. I believe, and I've said, because time, we may be constrained here for time, if we were to fast forward and we were to get people who are technology savvy and to create apps that speak to aspects of the culture, or religious app for Islam, Hinduism, whatever you want to call it. So it gets on your iPad, it gets on your phone. So when your kids are surfing in the YouTube or whatever you're doing, it's have to say, hey, half hour, you must be able to get into this app to be able to bring that to them. Because we have seen, and we have to be frank, there are lots of people in this country who are working so hard to be able to have us hold on and to preserve our rich cultural traditions.
Of course, you're modest, but you are one.
Right? Yeah. We work so hard to get it done, right? And they must be commended. Those people must be commended in the mandirs, in the masjids, in the churches, wherever they are doing this. But they cannot be left alone. They have to be supported. And I believe if the technology can support that effort, it will go a far way.
Neaz, I'm going to ask you as the program unfolds to tell us which is your favorite play as an actor, which is your favorite play that you directed. But let's look at a video of the cultural icon in Guyana, one of Guyana's cultural icon, Neaz Subhan. Could we have that on the screen, please?
Veteran of Guyana's theatre scene, Neaz Subhan, was among several Guyanese who were honored on Thursday for their contributions to the creative arts at Theatre Guild's Creative Spirit Awards held at the theatre's Kingston Georgetown home. Subhan, the acting CEO of the National Communications Network, copped the Lifetime Achievement Icon of Arts Award for his writing, acting, directing, and promotion of plays, films, and television.
I'm truly honored and humbled and surprised. When Simone called me, I asked her so many times, are you sure? Because my name gets mixed up with another colleague of mine who's also in the arts. I said, what's you? I said, thank you very much. I remember the fond days here at the Guild, and of course, there's so many people to thank, and many of you, not all of you here,
Thanks. Thanks, operator. Neaz, you got a cultural icon award there. You have done. Anyone who followed Indian culture would know your contribution. But let's rewind the tape to Indian Arrival Committee. How did this come about, and why did you want to form an organization called Indian Arrival Committee?
Well, at that time, you're looking at what, 2003 thereabouts, 2002, 2003. We believed that we needed to ensure that Indian culture is preserved and promoted in a very major way. I started in 1986 when I did my very first play, Maka Pyar, meaning Mother's Love. And that was a novelty for many people. I remember a very prominent cultural icon who at some point was my mentor. I never met him personally before 1986. But the night of the show, he turned up and he said he came to laugh because he never thought he would have seen anyone in his lifetime doing a play, an Indian play at the National Cultural Center, as if a movie was unfolding on stage. This was someone who was...
1986.
This 86.
That was the first...
My first play as a producer, director, writer. This is a person who would have done Anmol Bhandan and quite a few Guyanese films, and who did a lot of cultural shows in the countryside, at the schools and all of that, in an effort to try to keep the Indian culture alive. So seeing Maka Pyar, he was honest to say he came to laugh, but then he saw what he saw. This is Uncle Freddie Sanchara, who passed away, right? And he
the guy who owned the TV station.
Right, and he produced all of my plays after that, right? From Vishwas to Dobai to Tulsidas and Didar, and I could go on and on and on.
Is it his son that filmed Brown Sugar?
Yes,
that's
yes.
right.
So the ISC, so while I would have eased off a bit from Indian theatre, we needed to ensure that there are mechanisms to allow for the propagation of Indian culture. And the grand mailers were birthed. We did 3 mailers in 1 week, sometimes back to back, Berbice, Essequibo, and Demerara. And you didn't have the bridge at that time, right? So we had to, so it was very challenging, but we did it. But we felt, to answer your question, we felt it was needed at the time to ensure that there were mechanisms in place for the propagation of Indian culture.
When it was formed, you were the head?
No. We never really had a head per se. It was a collective effort by a group of people.
Now you've moved on with other things in your life. You're the CEO of NCN. That's a 24-hour job. But you still have time to contribute to...
Not as much as I would like. I mean, to be very, very, very honest. I mean, as you rightly said, NCN is a 24-hour job. But I try to do the best that I can. And there's so many people who would meet me ever so often and ask Neaz, when are you going to do a play? When are you going to do another show? When are you going to do a movie? Up to yesterday, I got a text from my friend.
You can't come out of that life, man. You can't.
I'm trying my best.
You can't come out. That's inside you. You must have a deputy.
It's my passion.
You have a deputy CEO. He can't hold on for a month while you do something.
Murphy's Law. Yeah. And I say no more.
Okay. Akash?
Yeah. The culture, the Indian culture that came to Guyana is still alive in many ways, especially in our food and our dressing.
It's still alive. It's alive.
Yes, it's alive. Yeah, but as I said, some aspects of it, and we have lost. And yes, is
and you're right. I mean, if I may,
sure.
We would have lost a part of the tan singing and all of that, right? But remember, as I said, we're living in an evolving
the evolution
world,
is happening. Yeah,
people, generations are going. New generation are coming. I'm not faulting anyone here for not passing on certain things. Tan would have evolved. That evolved from the biraha, right? Exactly. And then tan eventually morphed into chutney.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into chutney because my own view on that, but the original chutney I'm talking about here, right? Tan evolved eventually into that. So we can say, look, that form is probably still alive. But I know there are a few people in Guyana that still do tan. But remember, I also said, guys, that preferences also evolve.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So when a young person today want to listen to tan, I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm saying we have a responsibility to ensure that we preserve these art forms. The same thing happened to masquerade at some point, I sat on the MASH organizing committee for a number of years. when Dr. Frank Anthony was the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I can tell you of the tremendous efforts that went on behind the scene to ensure that Masquerade was preserved, because there were very few bands that were around, and the original Masquerade as we knew it would have almost gone away, and there was a lot of effort to try to revive that and bring it back on the scene. So it's the effort. So we also have to take some blame too, right? We also have to take some blame because these art forms, as how we knew them, we can either lose them, if not some we would have lost already. And I always say, you think 10, 15 years from now, given the influences that are bombarding culture from all fronts, so where would we be? Sometimes it's frightening to think of it.
In 1988, I registered at the Indian Cultural Center under a tutor by the name of Pandit Ramakant Sant of Gujarat. He taught me to play bansuri, Indian classical music. I can still play rags. I believe I'm the only person that can play ragas and bansuri being taught at the Indian Cultural Center, because when that man left, nobody else came back. Tabla is there, lots of tabla players, dolak players. We had Shehnai back then. There was the same teacher taught Shehnai. He taught another instrument to an old man from, I don't even know, call it Dilruba, that he was playing, right? And all these instruments, for me, these classical instrument means a lot. And yes, the Indian Cultural Center is providing tabla, harmonium, dolak, kathak dancing, generally. But I believe that, so we can probably make representation for people to come and teach other instruments that are generally on a rise back in India again.
And you're correct, but I think not to take away from what you would have said, but what I think is needed, and I think this is where all of us, all who are involved in and who like culture, to be able to have this awareness, this cultural awareness of who we are, what is it that we did, what are we identified with in terms of our culture. And I'm saying culture across the spectrum, right? And if you want to bring it down to Indian culture, as we're talking about here, I think there has to be some kind of awareness campaign too, because a lot of young people today, okay, for example, I think we would have grown up in homes, if not you too, where we say Nana or Nani, Aja, Aji, Chachi, Pua. We say Belnan, Chowki, right?
Dulahin, Dulaha,
Silan Lorha,
right? And those kinds of stuff. While some people are maybe still using it, but it was far more prevalent across the society in the Indian homes, where these things.
It was a necessity times,
right? Because that's how we communicate. So that was one way of preserving that aspect of our culture. In terms of music, in 2009, I started a program at NCN. Why did I start that program? Because when I listened to what was happening, they're all the songs from the 50s.
Not cutting you, but when you did that in 2009, you never believe in 2009 when you're doing that, you're going to come to head that corporation. I bet you never thought it would ever continue.
But I did it because in my view, the older songs were not being played on the airwaves. So from the 40s, from Dolari, Sohani Rat, we know Sohani Rat, but Sohani Rat was not the only good song in the movie, and that came out in 1948, right? There were albums before that, Almor Gadi, there was Ratan, and so many other great albums, but these songs were not being played. And I told the then CEO, God rest his soul, Fuzzy, I need some time. I need to play these music, right? And I started that program. And I can tell you one aspect of the impact. There was a man in Essequibo, God, he died too. He earned a kind of a living. He made a small piece by fixing antennas for people in parts of Essequibo so that they could pick up the program. Right. And that program took off, of playing music of yesteryear. I still do it. I still come out every Sunday morning out of my home at 6:30 to start at 7:30 to 10. I still do it at NCN. I moved it to NTN for about 10 years, and then it went back to NCN. But I believe music is such an integral part of what we do in our life. You're born, music is part of that. You die.
If music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it.
Yeah. So, but for me, it goes back to preference. And I was never in doubt of the audience who will gravitate to that kind of music. I'm very happy that there's still, many of them are still with us today. We have new people coming on board, but that aspect of the culture, I'm doing my utmost to ensure that I could play my part. All right, in preserving that.
I don't usually do this on the show, but I want to say a shout out to one of your staff who's been playing beautiful Indian music every afternoon. Safira Ali.
Right. But that was a program I would have ensured that it was introduced, right? Because I believe as a national station, we have to be able to reflect the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, must reflect the country, right? So we have an evening Bollywood program, and we have a morning Bollywood program on a different station.
Okay.
Right.
Niaz, a lot of people know you in the Indian cultural area. I mean, if you talk to someone who know your NCNC or you mention your name, but you also a practicing Muslim, and you were involved behind the scene of raising $110 million to Palestinian refugees. You want to tell us about that?
The National Ramadan Village that we saw recently was the brainchild of His Excellency, President Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, and a group of people through the MOIO, the CIOG, the Guyana Islamic Trust. We came together first to execute the Ramadan Village. And during the course of that, when we approached the 27th night, His Excellency said, look, let's use this night as a night of prayer and reflection, but also to raise funds for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. And I have been involved in many telethons before, right at NCN, for Haiti, when they had an earthquake, and there were earthquake in Pakistan and Indonesia. A whole set of countries were affected by a massive tsunami, I think. So I've been involved, even for persons with health-related challenges, we have telethons. I've never seen, within 6 hours, $72 million being raised within 6 hours during that particular night. And there was a demand for an extension, and we agreed, and eventually we were able to raise $110 million. It was so heartwarming to see the generosity of people, and I say people. I'm not talking here Muslim people, I'm not talking Indo-Guyanese, I'm talking here
general
people who turned up there and wanted to make a contribution, whether small or large. We said no contribution was small, and it was really, really, really a wonderful experience to see that Guyanese, known for their generosity, did not disappoint.
Tell me if you're unhappy with this clip here, and we wouldn't show it, but I thought when you invite a guest, you research them, of course, right? You're in the media, you would know. You gave a talk on the anniversary of the Lusigan massacre. I know you're ERC commissioner and you're head of NCN. You have any problem with showing us that, or you're a bit?
It's okay. Let's see what it is.
With Panko steel fabrication and the families of those who were slain, we thought it best to have a smaller gathering this year, and for the COVID protocol 19, the protocols of COVID-19 be observed as far as possible. So welcome on behalf of the organizers of this event. After the massacre in 2008, and as we approached 2009, the first memorial service was held on the tarmac, the public road, where the funeral was held. And the IAC then said that we will do our best to ensure that there's a memorial service every year, just to ensure, again, if I can use that word, that horrific incident and the memories of those who were killed, that those things are not confined to the dustbin of history. It moved from the tarmac after a few years to here in this very area, where we all know what happened in the morning, in the dark hours of the morning on January 26th, 2008. And over the years, we've been able to build a collaboration with Panko Steel Fabrication. And everything here this afternoon, the program has always been done in collaboration with the members of the families. Also, this event over the years has a unique characteristic. We started the tradition in 2009 and we kept it, of the prayers being held at the end of the ceremony. Traditionally, we would have prayers for events at the beginning, but this one event we do it at the end. Allow me also to recognize
from the Ethnic Relations Commission, Sister Rajkumari Singh, our religious leaders, and many of them, if not all of them who are here this evening, have been with us for many of the 12 years that we have held this memorial service. Can I ask you to stand respectfully as I read the names of those who were killed, and as we observe a moment of silence in their memory. Those killed here in the houses in this street.
That you have, the Indian Arrival Committee has done that for 13 years. I guess they still do that, but you have moved on.
Yeah. We last year was the first. I think this was the first year that we did not do a memorial ceremony for those victims. I guess things,
people move
after a while. But this is very dear to me because my son was born on the 25th of January. And it was during the course of the night that we were in the hospital, and I saw a lot of movements within the vicinity, and we heard of this massacre. So when I would speak at these events, I would say I was lucky as a father. We were lucky as parents to have a child born, but on that morning, children were killed.
So your son was born on the
just before that massacre, and it is something that I will never be able to forget because I was there with then President Jagdeo and his team. We went there very early in the morning, and to be able to see what was going on, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy experience to look at these things.
What's your son's name? You didn't.
Shane. His name is Shane.
Oh, you didn't. I just thought you may have wanted to name him Luzik or something. But I don't want to dwell on that because it may evoke memories to you. And then you're ERC commissioner. And we did say in the program we don't want to get you involved in any controversy. You're the head of a national institution. So let's move on. Could you remember how many plays, Indian plays, that you have written? The first one is in the 80s.
Right? It would be tough because...
Could you name some of them?
Some of them I wrote. Those that I wrote would have been Maka Pyar. I did Vishwas. I would have adapted Tulsidas and Didar and Bhagwan and Hobai from films and other productions. I would have also written non-Indian plays. I did I Am Us, which was converted into a movie. I Am Us, I did that for the ERC, and I wrote a few screenplays.
You
also.
acted in I Am Us?
No, I directed it.
Okay.
Just directed it. At some point you get to prefer directing than acting. At some point, And I would have acted in quite a few, but there are many other plays I would have done. I did a tribute to Sheikh Sadiq one year. The IAC did that. Namaste, we called that production. I did Kanyadan, a play that was written by Vijay Tendulkar, or is written by Vijay Tendulkar out of India, and speaks to certain aspects of domestic violence. And we used that, the IAC used that play as a way of bringing awareness to the issue of domestic violence. There are quite a few. I did the Ghana Bajana series as well. So
I know about the Ghana Bajana. I know everybody, every Indian who follows the culture know about that series.
Yeah, the Ghana Bajana series.
You have to miss that part of your life.
I do, Freddie. I do, because as I said, it's one of the areas that allows me to be different, not to be worried about anything else, to be creative, and stressless. Which is ironic, because having to deal with productions and rehearsals and people and all of that itself can send your blood pressure up. But for me, it's different. Doing that doesn't do that. You feel like you're doing something completely different.
Yeah. Doing that moves you.
Yeah. I do miss it. I miss writing too. I didn't get to write after I did I Am Us. I don't think I would have written anything after that.
I Am Us was what year?
I Am Us I actually wrote I Am Us in 2016, but it was staged in 2019. So I haven't written anything since.
Anything is coming up?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you're working in the area that is close to your heart.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
You're working.
Yeah.
But before Akash come in, that is what, although you're head of NCN, those moments that you do those things, it helps you do your official work.
It does.
Because it rejuvenates you, it motivates you.
It does. And as I said, writing is one of my passions. I did an anthology of poems.
It's published?
I haven't published it yet. Yonder, I call it Yonder. So
Y-O-N-D-R, Yonder?
Yeah, Yonder. Yeah.
Why Yonder?
How do I answer that? Because the type of language, the type of poetry that I put there, I believe with all of these dark things sometimes happening to you, sometimes
Yonder will contain experience of the COVID.
Some of that depression and everything else. But I feel you needed to go somewhere far and away from everything else.
Okay.
And just reflect. So in that context, I called it
Yonder. Right. It's finished and everything.
It's finished. Everything is finished. Just for me to take it to the printers and get it print.
But when that comes out, we're gonna have you here again to read some of.
And I also wrote a book. I wrote a book on my challenges with depression, and there's a chapter there on COVID and everything else. I never launched it, but it was
I wanted to know, because if we had that, we always feature the books of our guests.
Yeah, well, it was sold
publish these things.
It was sold at Giftland and Austin for quite a while, so I didn't do an official launch, but I talked to Giftland and Austin, and I was impressed with the amount of copies that were sold, quite a few.
Yes, you should have brought a copy of that.
My apologies. I'll send you a complimentary copy.
No. When is this book of poetry being out? Ian MacDonald has to know. You have to tell Ian MacDonald that and let him write the foreword.
Well, that's a very good thing. You said it publicly, so I'll ask.
Yeah. I will ask him too.
I'd be very honored if he were to do that.
Well, when you're ready.
Why don't I give you a copy to read? Right? I give you a copy to read, and then. I don't need to read it. I'm going to ask. You have a track record, man, of cultural contribution. I am going to ask Ian MacDonald if he could write the foreword, but I'm sure he'll be honored. I'll be honored too.
I'm sure he'll be honored. No, but how soon you think this is coming out?
Well, it's me now.
But with your contacts in Guyana, you don't need it.
Yeah, maybe it was. We're in May. Today is Monday, the 5th of Sunday, the 5th of Monday, the 6th, right? I should say by the end of May, I should be able to get it out.
Okay. We're going to have you back here with that and to read. I am going to read one of that. I'm going to read some, at least a poem from your thing. But Akash?
In 2003, when this huge IAC mailer was launched at Everest, I was a manager for the club. I remember working along with Salahuddin Nasruddin, Raihan Shah, Radhe Evan Prasad, and they put together some amazing things. We spoke, I asked you about some of the things that are missing, but there must be many things that you guys were able to put into place that you're proud of. What are some of the things you've achieved, Neaz?
Well, one of the things, the mailers not only serve to preserve that particular aspect of culture. I think they may be slightly different there because the ISC, there was another group doing mailers before, Jiha.
Oh, right.
Guyana,
Yes. And that's that group.
Right.
That's it.
Ryan and Salim would have been involved.
Oh, right.
Everett was part of the IAC in 2003. But apart from preserving that aspect of the culture, it was able to showcase a lot of talent across our country. So the Shaki Strings Band, as we know it today, rewind so many years ago.
Yeah, the guy died.
It's 20 years ago we died.
Right. So when you rewind it, when you rewind time, we saw a lot of talent that came, because when we went to Berbice, we used people from Berbice to dance and sing. We went to Essequibo, we did the same thing. So you had that showcase of talent. And what helped too, because of the agreements that were signed between Guyana and India, cultural exchange, we had quite a few troops that came from parts of India to participate in those events. So you had Guyanese being part of a show that involved professional dancers and singers from India. It helped their confidence, it helped build their whole repertoire of culture and everything else. So it was something that we remain very, very proud of what those mailers did. And as I said, things evolve. We're hoping that we can do something different in the future.
Neaz, tell our views about your life. You're a married man with children.
I'm the father, I'm the biological father of 5 sons, 5 boys, all names begin with S. And I have 2 daughters from my current wife. My ex-wife died, and my current wife, she has 2 daughters from her side. So I'm the father of 7.
5 and 2.
7.
You're a prolific, productive man. People in this age normally stop at 3. It's between 1 to 3.
Maybe something went wrong with the calculator.
Any one of them has followed in your journalistic or cultural footsteps?
The eldest, Jennifer, she worked quite a few years at in the newsroom at the NCN for a while when I was the head of DPI, then Gina, and today she is within the an area where she can use some of her expertise.
She's really.
She's at the office of the Prime Minister.
Okay, and the other 6?
Well, one specialized in marketing. She likes marketing a lot, you know. So that's her, and she's very creative in that aspect. So maybe in some way, creativeness.
I did an interview with her, and after the interview, I told her, I said, "You've really impressed me." I did an interview with her for the Building Expo.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was at the Chronicle.
Okay. That young lady is at
Impressions.
She was Impressions. Yes. She's still there.
No, she's no longer.
Oh, she's no
she
longer
left recently.
I saw the interview with him. She left?
Yeah, she left recently. Well, the boys there, too.
She's quite a pretty woman, Neaz.
Yes.
She should be in movies, you know, Neaz. I'm telling you.
She got it from her mom.
She should be in movies.
She should let the lady do a professional job.
No. I'm telling you, if you're looking for a Guyanese star girl, Freddie, I'm telling you.
I know. I saw
his daughter.
With her.
She is Bollywood-esque.
Yeah. Well, I have two.
The woman's taking a professional job.
Yeah. Well, I have one who's writing CSEC. Monday, the 6th of May, would be his first exam. Right, and one just finished writing NGSA.
Yeah.
NGSA 2024.
All right. We come now to when I called you for this interview, I was so disappointed that you couldn't sing. But let's talk about, I belong to the era. I'm an old man. I belong to the era of Rajesh Khanna, Mumtaz. Good. Neaz, I don't care about Shah Rukh Khan and Amitabh Bachchan. I mean, I know Amitabh is extraordinarily talented. But my favorite actor for the English world is Jack Lemmon, and it's Rajesh Khanna for Bollywood. Yeah. But maybe it left something in me by I was young and he was the big thing there.
The era.
It's the era too, because remember Rajesh was the first real superstar of Bollywood.
Yeah.
Right? 17 consecutive hits. I don't think any actor on the planet has 17 consecutive hits, right? Which he did. And of course, he came at a time when people just really worshipped him, right? But as boys growing up, as a young boy growing up, I didn't want to see a Rajesh Khanna film because it was romantic films. We wanted the action hero, right? So we gravitated to Dharmendra, right? And when Amitabh came out in 1973 with Zanjeer as the angry young man, we gravitated towards that. But let me say this, different era, different actors, different people. If I were to name actors that I like to see, I would go with Dilip Kumar, and if you compare Dilip and Marlon Brando, you could argue which of the two or which one brought this ability of subtleness in their acting, their natural acting, the little nuances that they do. Directors don't tell them to do that, right? Yeah. Natural acting. So that's a different conversation. But Dilip Kumar, Amitabh is one of my favorite actors. But for me, I go across the other side. When I look at people like Prem Chopra,
he never got a lead role, Joe.
People like Pran.
Perennial villains.
Right. People like Kadar Khan. Amjad Khan. Jivan. These are fantastic.
You saw Sholay with Amjad Khan.
Yeah, he was first major.
That was excellent acting. I mean,
and people call him Gabbar Singh.
Yeah, that's right. And the name left on him.
Amjad Khan. So for me, it's about acting. And if you look at Shah Rukh Khan, Shah Rukh played the villain in some of his earlier films.
That's right.
Right? A lot of actors wouldn't take that risk. Right?
Bazigar and Dar.
Bazigar, Dar, and Jam. Vinood Khanna did it too.
Yeah, he started there. Yeah,
as
yeah.
villain, he did it in Satyajit, I think.
Satcho Hansina started as a
even Dharmendra played a villain in one film, I Milan Ki Bela, and I like that because you see a different side of the actor. When most of the roles that I would have played on stage were villains. Most of the roles that I played at the Cultural Center were the villain roles, and I like that because to me you have a little bit more range, you know. Because if you're talking like a romantic hero, have nothing against Rajesh Khanna. I like Rajesh Khanna, but when you're talking,
a straight line, you gotta go.
You know, there's not much there, but I've seen Rajesh Khanna do some fantastic work.
I like Interfact. I thought a few people could.
Yeah, that was a mystery film.
Yeah, in which he was suspected of being a killer.
You had Ittifaq Raz, I think.
Yeah, the train.
But the film that I really fell in love with Rajesh Khanna in the context of liking him as an actor was a film by the name of Danwan, where he played a rich man, got blind in an accident, and then he got the eyes of a poor man to get back his vision. And to his whole realization of life and values and everything else.
My favorite song is from the Rajesh Khanna movie.
Which one?
Mere Jiwan Sati. Oh, Mere Dil Kishore. I just...
Kishore.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He sings that song all the time. It's his favorite Indian song.
That's my second favorite all-time song. I like Barry White's Love Team. That's an instrumental song. And then Oh, Mere Dil Kishore. I don't think any song produced now until I die I could like more than...
The thing with me and singing, look, as a boy growing up, I sang. But where did I sing? We used to
you sing? You told me you don't know to sing.
No. It's where? It was outside in the yard when you're bathing from the drum in the evening. And you're taking your bathe. You grew up we come from modest backgrounds in the countryside. So we bathed, we had our shower, in quote-unquote shower, but and a drum catching water from the rain. Yeah. And I sang there at the age of 9. My parents introduced me to Indian music at a very, very, very early age. So I grew up with that, a part of my enforced DNA, if you want to call it that, or induced DNA. And in high school, and I don't know if you know this, but you may be shocked. In high school, when I did A-levels at Bishop's High School, I did O-levels at St. Joseph's. But at Bishop's High School, I was elected as the president of the Hindu Society of Bishop's High School. I think I'm the only Muslim to have held
that is amazing,
that position. Yes. And the former CEO of Gaisuku, Sestarayan Singh, always talk about that because he was a bishop.
I'm glad we talked about lady for our viewers.
Right.
The first Muslim in Guyana to head a Hindu organization, Neaz Subhan.
And what we used to do there, the guys tried to teach me to play the harmonium, so I could have played one verse of the song "Ek Pyar Ka Nagma Hai" from the movie Shore. I could have done that. We tried doing some
with Amitabh's wife,
Jaya Badu, and Manoj Kumar.
Manoj Kumar, yes.
But the thing is, Freddie, on a more serious note, I'm always conscious about my inability to sing or to play a musical instrument. I yearn for it. I always believe. I always wish that I could have played a musical instrument. Then I realized, you know what?
A man got his...
You're born with certain...
That's right, exactly, yes.
You're born with certain...
Indeed.
Things. And I'm convinced. And when I see some of our young people here in Guyana playing the dholak or the harmonium or the keyboard or whatever, I'm always amazed because that's a talent that I believe you have to born with. I tried and I couldn't do it. Not because I tried, I couldn't do it, no one else can. But I'm of the firm belief that you have
I know you're a good actor.
Thank you.
You're a good actor.
And that's another thing you have to be born with,
How that came about?
Because of my exposure at a very early age to Indian music and to my mom, my late mom used to always take me she took me to the cinema.
Your dad is still alive?
Yeah, my dad is still alive. My mom, she died in 2020. But she took me a lot to the movies and I got involved in that. But it was at the same Hindu Society at Bishop's High School when they asked me to do something and I said yes. I have a skit. I had no skit and I had to go and write a skit. And by writing it, I started to think a certain way. But if you allow me quickly,
go on. We have 10 minutes more.
To rewind to St. Joseph's High School. Cricket was my passion. I think I was a good bowler, fast bowler. I played, I wouldn't call the name, but I played with a person who represented the West Indies from Guyana. But in my team, he was a third change. I was opening bowler.
So he went on to the West Indies.
His father never forgave me because his father felt that I should have continued playing. But I actually got a back injury.
Now you don't want to tell us who he is.
No. I'll tell you after. He was a very good fast bowler from Guyana, and I got his back injury, and I was banned for 2 years from any physical,
So you represented the school?
School. I did some work on the East Bank and so on. But one day we went to play a match at Everest for St. Joseph. So when I came back, there was this young teacher who approached me and said, look, this is St. Joseph's High School. It was still run by the nuns, even though it was nationalized, but they did a wonderful job. And she said, look, she wanted to do a play on Pagua and want me to play King Hiranyakashipu. And I'm saying, why did you come to me? Well, I don't know. I think I might have been a little bit rude, I must admit, to the young lady. So the next day I went and I apologized to her. I said, if I came over too harsh, I want to apologize. But cricket is my passion. But if you think I could do this, I'm going to go along with you. This was a novelty at St. Joseph's High School in whatever year it was, 1980, 81. It was a disaster, Freddie and Akash.
What?
It was a disaster in terms of how it turned out. But, well, let me rephrase. It was a disaster for me after I reflected.
Okay.
Children loved it. And I found myself thinking, we should have done this. I could have done that with a character. This other person should have done that. The set should have been different. Yeah. And I think that was the moment that really pushed me in the direction of theater. And I did my first professional play as an actor for the Gaisuku Drama Group in 1985. And I didn't look back since. Directed by Andres O'Brien.
You have a very, I'm glad we have done this interview now. A lot of things about you I didn't know, honestly. And we do these programs. So we set from day one, we do these programs. So 30 years when people look back, it's part of Guyanese history. And people would know Mary, John, Sita, what they have contributed. You have contributed substantially to Guyanese culture, man.
But I'm not worried whether my story fits into your profile and audience expectations of your fiery discussions on politics and so on.
No. We've had many like you, and our ratings were very good. People, you think everybody want to hear about politics? You think everybody? We get viewers that say, man, he's the politics, man. He's the politics. We get people.
Because I was worried when I'm going to fit into this.
And for every holiday, we bring somebody in that reflects on a specific holiday. Easter.
When it was Indian Arrival Day, now you go to say, man, Freddie only saying this. But when we talked about Indian Arrival Day, you were the first person that came to our mind.
Both of us. Both of us.
We said, Neaz Subhan, the man formed Indian Arrival Committee.
I'm honored. I'm truly honored. But you asked me earlier which was the most difficult play I did. And if I had to rate it, it would be Bagban. This movie with Amitabh Bachchan and the challenges he had with his kids. I would rate Bagban because I tried to get it almost as authentic as I could on stage. And I had to rewrite the script a little bit and even twist or rearrange a few scenes just to make it work for stage. And for me, it was one of the greatest accomplishments that I would have done as a director. It took me 5 years to do it because I always wanted to do it, and the time wasn't right until it happened. When it was staged, I can't recall the year it was, but for me, Bagban would have been it.
Well, you're a man of contacts. You headed DPI, you now heading NCN, you know some of the major influential people in society. Can't you arrange for some of these plays to be put on back again?
We can, but I'll tell you what, one of the biggest challenges that I would have had, even before I became a director, was finding the talent. I'm not here to criticize anyone, but finding the Indian talent. So if we wanted someone to play a mother, let's say in her 50s or her 60s, it was very difficult. Yeah. You had to have somebody much younger to be made up, and sometimes you lose the authenticity of the character that you wanted. So one of the challenges would have been talent. It doesn't mean that the doors are closed. We can do auditions, we can do some training, but it's to attract people. You see, in the others and in the English theater, there was lots of different people you could have chosen from to do certain roles. I remember once when Jem was making her directorial debut, and she put me in the lead of a play named Right Bed, Wrong Husband. She said, Neaz, I need somebody to play your uncle. I said, well, there's Ron Robinson. Right. He's older than me, and he played my uncle in the play. So there are people you could have actually gone to. A little bit more difficult in Indian theatre.
Akash?
When I did the movie Protection Game, I acted opposite Ron Robinson because I played a prosecutor, and he was a defense lawyer. One of the challenges that I found is that, and I'm not here knocking anybody, but this is for us to help how we can make this better, is that the actors in theater don't usually have an easy transition when it comes to camera in films. The projection sometimes is still the projection of theater and on stage. I don't know if you would have noticed this. How can we help to bring this? How can we help?
It's training. It has to come to training, because while certain theater actors would have done extremely well on screen, take for example, Lord Olivier,
Sir Laurence Olivier,
Laurence Olivier, and quite a few of the British actors, Peter O'Toole and those guys who came, even in India. If you look at India, look at actors like Kamal Hassan, look at Nazaruddin Shah. There's a guy, look at Irfan Khan that died.
Irfan Khan, yes.
Nawazuddin Siddiqui. When you look at these guys, Shabana Azmi, Tabu, these are actors who came from some level of theater background, and you could see the difference, but they were able to transition right to film with the subtleties that film called for. And that's why I mentioned Marlon Brando and Dilip Kumar. The little things that they will do, they were talking, and gradually they were just do something.
His wife Saira Banu still alive.
She's still alive. She's still alive. Yeah, she's still alive. So it's training. It's training, but also to, as I said, we're not here to blame anyone.
Right.
The directors also will have to be able to work on that, because you have to picture what you want the audience to see. Making a film, making a TV, a documentary, whatever television production you're going to make, you have to see it before you make it. And with all due respect to everyone else, I don't think many people really understand that concept. That you have to see it before you make it. I'm directing a play, I have to see the play before I direct it. You understand?
We want to end, as time is going. The theme of tonight's program is Indian Arrival, and one of the founders of Indian Arrival Day. Neaz,
I don't know if I'm a founder of Indian Arrival Day. I know we
lobbied. Indian Arrival Committee. Indian Arrival Committee.
I know we lobbied.
But you lobbied.
To be a holiday.
No,
we, the IAC.
The IAC lobbied for it.
Yeah. We lobbied. We were not the only ones.
I know. But the East Indians of Guyana, they've come a long way, haven't they? They have. Neaz, my name is Frederick, and I was given the name Frederick, and thousands of others, because it was a Christian-dominated society. And if your kid is going to get a job or accepted, they can't name Sohan, they can't name Anil, they can't name Raghuber, so your parents give them an English name. But we've come a long way since then.
Oh, of course, and not just jobs, even to schools. Some schools back in those days, if you wanted to get it, you had to have a certain name. And you're right, it shows how far we have come, not just as East Indians, but as a people. But specifically to the contributions of Indo-Guyanese, our foreparents and their descendants would have made invaluable and continue to make invaluable contributions in every aspect of our society, from top to bottom, whichever you want to call it. And those contributions would have, along with the others, would have augmented the collective effort of everyone else to bring Guyana to where it is now.
So you are proud, and you assert yourself that you were one of the founders of the Indian Arrival Committee, and you're glad you have done that to highlight the arrival of these people coming in.
Let me put it this way: as even before the Indian Arrival Committee, with all due respect to my colleagues there, I would have been involved in culture way back. And I'm proud of my contributions, as small as they are. I am hoping that it would have made an impact in some way. I wish I could have done more, but there are circumstances. And there are many like me, there are some unsung heroes that are there. There are people that we see, but there are people who we don't see. For example, Bapi Rupchan, who passed away recently. You would never know he was the owner of the Shakti string if you didn't know he was the owner of the Shakti string. Very modest guy. We lost Mohan Nandu earlier in the year. And over the years, there have been so many people, some in the forefront, some in the backstage, who have been doing their job. And I want to recognize them.
Neaz, it was an interesting evening. Our operator signal, our time has come, so we will end on a cultural note. I like your shirt. It's not a shirt. It's a new shirt.
Yeah, the kurta is short and
Right.
short sleeve kurta. I find them very comfortable.
And secondly, what happened to the beard when you receive your Cultural Icon Award? What happened to the beard? It's gone, or it's coming back?
I have family, so sometimes they say, boy, my wife would say, aren't you shaving? I actually like the beard, but after a while it gets a little bit, so every now and again you'll
change it up.
like you're clean shaven.
Listen, man, it was a pleasure talking to a Guyanese cultural icon.
Thank you, Freddie. Really, I'm really humbled by your invitation.
Indeed, yeah.
You and Akash, I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. You were watching the Indian Arrival Day edition of the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Akash Persaud. Our guest was one of the huge cultural icons of Guyana, a man with immense contribution to Indian culture, and that cannot be denied and will not be denied. Neaz Subhan. We will see you on Wednesday. On behalf of Akash and our cultural icon, Neaz, bye-bye.